Imagine you are waking up, but you are not waking up. Your eyes flutter open, and you can see the familiar shapes of your bedroom ceiling, the pale moonlight filtering through the blinds. Your mind is alert, sharp, screaming with the sudden and jarring transition from dream to reality. But something is profoundly wrong. You try to lift your head, but it's pinned to the pillow. You try to move your arm to turn onto your side, but your limbs are made of lead, fused to the mattress. A wave of cold, primal panic washes over you as you realize the truth. Your mind is awake, but your body remains a corpse. Then the feeling begins. A crushing weight on your chest, a suffocating pressure that makes every breath a desperate, shallow gasp. You are not alone. Out of the corner of your eye, a shadow detaches itself from the deeper darkness of the room. It's a presence, an entity of pure malevolence, and it is watching you. You try to scream, to call for help, to make any sound at all, but your throat is paralyzed. A silent, agonizing shriek is trapped behind your teeth. This isn't a nightmare you are remembering. It's a nightmare you are living. What is this waking horror? This borderland between sleep and consciousness, where the mind is held hostage in a motionless body? And what is the terrifying figure that haunts this state? A visitor seen by millions across cultures and centuries. The answer is not supernatural. It is a neurological phenomenon, so bizarre, so profoundly unsettling, that it has shaped humanity's darkest myths for millennia. It reveals that the most terrifying monster we will ever face is not in our room, but is, in fact, the architecture of our own mind. For Liam, a 21-year-old history student at the University of Edinburgh, it began as a semester defined by stress. Deadlines for papers were converging, final exams loomed, and his sleep schedule had devolved into a chaotic cycle of late-night study sessions fueled by caffeine, followed by brief, unsatisfying periods of rest. One Tuesday night, after finally collapsing into bed around 3 a.m, it happened for the first time. He awoke with a jolt, not to the sound of his alarm, but to a deafening internal silence. His eyes darted around his small dorm room, cataloguing every detail with a strange, hyper-lucid clarity. The stack of books on his desk, the jacket slung over his chair, the faint glow of the city lights against his window. He was awake. He knew it. But when he tried to sit up, his body refused to obey. It was as if the electrical signals from his brain were being severed at the neck. He was a prisoner inside his own skull. Panic, cold and sharp, began to prickle at the edges of his consciousness. Then he felt it. A distinct, heavy pressure settling onto his sternum as if an unseen person were kneeling on his chest. His breathing grew ragged and shallow. He strained to draw in air, each breath a monumental effort against the crushing weight. Through the roaring in his ears, a new sound emerged, a low, guttural breathing that was not his own. It seemed to be coming from the foot of his bed. He couldn't turn his head, but his peripheral vision caught a flicker of movement. A tall, impossibly thin figure was standing there, a silhouette of pure blackness that seemed to absorb the dim light around it. Liam's heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the horrifying stillness. His life, his sanity, his very grip on reality felt as though it were fraying thread by thread. He was being assaulted, violated by an intruder he couldn't see, in a state where he was utterly, terrifyingly helpless. Liam's experience, though deeply personal and isolating, is not unique. He is a modern participant in an ancient human drama, a terror that predates written history. For millennia, before we had the language of neuroscience to describe this state, humanity reached for the only explanations it had: the supernatural, the demonic, the malevolent. Our ancestors did not call it sleep paralysis. They called it a visitation. In ancient Germanic and Slavic folklore, The entity responsible was known as the mare, a demonic creature that would ride on the chests of sleepers, bringing with them terrifying dreams or nightmares. This wasn't a metaphor. The mare was believed to be a real physical assault. In Newfoundland, the experience is known as the Old Hag, where a malevolent witch is believed to leave her physical body and sit on her victim's chest, leaving them breathless and terrified. In Brazil, the folklore speaks of the pisadeira, a crone with long fingernails who lurks on rooftops, emerging at night to trample on the chests of those who sleep on a full stomach. In Japanese culture, it is kanashibari, which translates to bound or fastened in metal, a term that vividly captures the physical sensation of being completely restrained by an unseen force. Across the world, from the jinn of the Middle East to the lidert of Hungarian folklore, cultures independently developed myths to explain the same terrifying constellation of symptoms: waking paralysis, a crushing pressure on the chest, and the overwhelming sensation of a sinister presence. These were not mere stories told around a campfire. They were accepted as truth, a genuine danger that lurked in the vulnerability of sleep. The fear was so profound that it led to the creation of charms, incantations, and rituals, all designed to ward off these nocturnal predators. The consistency of these myths across disconnected cultures points to a staggering truth. The demon in the bedroom is a universal human experience. The question was never if it was real, but what its name was. For thousands of years, we looked for the monster in the shadows of our room, never once suspecting that the true source of the horror was quietly waiting behind our own eyes. The journey to understand this phenomenon begins not in folklore, but in the intricate and delicate biology of sleep itself. To unravel the mystery of sleep paralysis, we must first understand the architecture of our nightly rest. According to the Division of Sleep Medicine at Harvard Medical School, our sleep is not a monolithic state of unconsciousness. Instead, it is a dynamic cycle through several stages, broadly categorized into non-rapid eye movement, NREM, and rapid eye movement, GREM sleep. We spend most of the night in NREM sleep, a period of quiet rest for the body and brain, but it is during REM sleep that the real drama unfolds. This is the stage where our most vivid, narrative-driven dreams occur. Your brain becomes highly active, almost as active as when you are awake. Your eyes dart back and forth beneath your eyelids, tracking the events of your dream world. But while your mind is racing, your body is completely still. This is due to a crucial protective mechanism known as REM atonia. During this stage, your brainstem actively sends signals to inhibit your voluntary muscles, effectively paralyzing your entire body from the neck down, save for the muscles that control your breathing and eye movements. This paralysis is essential. It prevents you from physically acting out your dreams, from punching a wall while dreaming of a fight, or sprinting off your bed while dreaming of a chase. Sleep paralysis, therefore, is not a disease or a disorder in the traditional sense. It is a glitch in the transition between states of consciousness. It is, as sleep researcher Dr. Brian Sharpless describes it in his book, Sleep Paralysis, a guide to the terrifying, bizarre, and misunderstood, a state of mixed consciousness, where elements of REM sleep intrude upon the waking state. Essentially, your conscious mind wakes up before the rest of your brain has switched off the REM atonia. You are mentally awake and aware of your surroundings, but the paralysis switch is still flipped on, leaving your body locked in the state of a dreamer. This temporal mismatch, this brief, disorienting overlap of two distinct states of being, is the neurological foundation for the entire horrifying experience. It explains the paralysis, but it does not yet explain the demon. For that, we must look deeper into the panicked, confused brain, which, in the absence of clear information, begins to tell itself a terrifying story. The hallucinations experienced during sleep paralysis are not random. They are predictable, consistent, and can be categorized into 3 distinct types, as extensively documented by researchers like J. Allen Chaney at the University of Waterloo. The first and most common is the intruder hallucination. This is the profound, unshakable feeling of a presence in the room, a sense of being watched by someone or something, almost always perceived as malevolent. This is often accompanied by auditory hallucinations, like footsteps, whispers, or the sound of a door creaking open, and visual hallucinations of a shadowy figure. Neurologically, this is believed to originate in a hyper-vigilant state triggered by the amygdala, the brain's fear and threat detection center. The amygdala screams danger, but because you are paralyzed and can't scan the room to verify the threat, your brain's parietal lobe, responsible for spatial awareness and self-perception, attempts to resolve this paradox. It projects a source for the fear, creating a hallucinated intruder to explain the overwhelming sense of dread. The second category is the incubus phenomenon, from the Latin incubere, to lie upon. This involves the terrifying sensation of pressure on the chest, difficulty breathing, and sometimes the feeling of being choked or assaulted. While this feels external, its origins are internal. When you become aware of your breathing during the paralysis, you are consciously trying to control a process that is normally automatic during REM sleep. You are, in effect, fighting against the shallow, rhythmic breathing pattern of the REM state. This struggle, combined with the paralysis of accessory chest muscles, creates a genuine physical sensation of suffocation and pressure, which the panicked brain interprets as an external assault, the weight of a demon, an alien, or an old hag. The third and often most bizarre category is the vestibular motor hallucination. These involve feelings of movement, such as floating, flying, or falling. Some report vivid out-of-body experiences, a sensation of looking down upon their own paralyzed form from a corner of the ceiling. According to a 2017 study in the journal Clinical Neurophysiology, these experiences are thought to be caused by a conflict in the brain's temporoparietal junction. This region integrates information from our senses to create a coherent sense of our body's location in space. During the mixed state of sleep paralysis, this system may become disoriented, unable to reconcile the state of paralysis with the mind's wakefulness, resulting in the hallucinatory sensation of disembodiment. So why do some people experience this and not others? Research published in journals like Sleep Medicine Reviews points to a convergence of factors. Sleep deprivation, inconsistent sleep schedules, and high levels of stress are significant triggers, which explains why students like Liam are particularly vulnerable. Sleeping in the supine position on your back has also been shown to increase the likelihood of an episode. Furthermore, there is a strong correlation with other sleep disorders, particularly narcolepsy, and with mental health conditions like anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder. The prevalence is staggering. A 2011 meta-analysis of over 35 studies concluded that nearly 8% of the general population has experienced at least one episode. That figure jumps to over 28% among students and 32% among psychiatric patients. This isn't a rare anomaly. It is a common, albeit terrifying, feature of human neurology. It is a ghost in our own machine, a temporary breakdown in the elegant system that governs our sleep, which for centuries we have mistaken for an invasion from a world beyond our own. The single most defining discovery, the true revelation that recontextualizes the entire phenomenon, is not simply that sleep paralysis is a brain glitch. The shocking truth is far more profound. It is the realization that the demon, the hag, the shadowy intruder, is an act of creation. It is a desperate, spontaneous narrative constructed by our own brain to make sense of a terrifying biological paradox. Think of the brain as an inference engine, a prediction machine. Its primary job, moment to moment, is to take in sensory data, compare it to its existing models of the world, and generate a coherent story of what is happening. As you read this, your brain is seamlessly integrating visual data, auditory data, and cognitive processes into a single unified experience of reality. But during sleep paralysis, this system is thrown into chaos. It receives a set of profoundly contradictory signals. The eyes are open and transmitting data. We are in the bedroom. The mind is awake and aware. I am conscious. But the motor cortex sends a frantic, unanswered signal. We cannot move. This is a paradox that violates a fundamental rule of being awake. The brain's predictive model breaks. In this state of cognitive dissonance and high alert, fueled by a hyperactive amygdala, the brain must generate an explanation, and it must do so quickly. It searches for the most plausible cause for this terrifying state. Why can't I move? The answer cannot be because I'm still in rem atonia, as the brain has no conscious awareness of this mechanism. Instead, it defaults to a more primal, intuitive explanation, one baked into our evolutionary history, an external agent. Something must be holding me down. Something must be causing this. Fear. Something is in the room with me, and in that moment of pure neurological desperation, the brain generates the demon. It creates the intruder. It projects the shadow in the corner and fabricates the pressure on the chest. The hallucination is not a symptom of the paralysis. It is the brain's solution to the paralysis. It is a story the mind tells itself to explain the inexplicable. This is the critical shift in perspective. The terrifying entity is not an invading force, but an imputed one. It is a phantom born of sensory confusion and interpretive necessity. As neuroscientist and sleep paralysis researcher Baland Jalal of Cambridge University has proposed, it is a disturbance in the brain's self-representation. The brain has a neural map of self, a sense of its own body. When the parietal lobes fail to get feedback from the paralyzed limbs, it can result in a hallucinated projection of one's own body map, which is then perceived as a separate alien entity in the room. You are, in the most literal sense, being haunted by a ghost of yourself. The demon is a shadow puppet, and your own brain is the puppeteer. The implications of this extend far beyond the bedroom. Sleep paralysis serves as a chilling, natural experiment that exposes the profound fragility of our perception of reality. It demonstrates that the boundary between the world out there and the world constructed inside our heads is terrifyingly thin. If our brain, under a specific set of neurological conditions, can spontaneously generate a completely convincing multisensory experience of a demonic attack, an experience that feels 100% real to the person undergoing it, what does that say about the reliability of our everyday consciousness? It reveals that our reality is not a passive reception of objective truth, but an active, ongoing process of interpretation and storytelling. Our brain is constantly filling in gaps, making assumptions, and building a coherent narrative from incomplete data. Usually, this process works flawlessly. But in the disorienting state of sleep paralysis, We get a rare and frightening glimpse behind the curtain, witnessing the raw, chaotic process of meaning-making at its most desperate. This has profound relevance for understanding the genesis of belief. For millennia, the consistent, vivid, and terrifyingly real experiences of sleep paralysis provided powerful first-hand evidence for the existence of demons, ghosts, and malevolent spirits. These weren't just abstract concepts, they were verified by personal experience. The phenomenon acted as an engine for myth, reinforcing and perpetuating supernatural belief systems across the globe. It shows us how easily the human mind can mistake an internal neurological event for an external supernatural one. This isn't a story about the past. It informs our understanding of modern paranormal claims, from alien abductions to shadow people, many of which bear a striking resemblance to the classic features of a sleep paralysis episode. It forces us to ask a difficult question. How many of the things we believe to be external truths are actually projections of our own internal cognitive architecture? So we return to the person in the bed, pinned down by an invisible weight, staring into the darkness at a figure that is not there. We now understand the flipped switches in the brainstem, the misfiring signals in the parietal lobe, the panic response of the amygdala. We have replaced the language of demons and spirits with the language of neuroscience. The experience is no longer a supernatural assault, but a fascinating, albeit terrifying, glimpse into the machinery of consciousness itself. The paralysis is real. The fear is real. The sensation of pressure is real. The only thing that isn't real is the explanation the brain provides for it. Professor David's insight here is a sobering one. We have spent our entire history looking for monsters under the bed and in the closet, crafting elaborate mythologies to name the sources of our fear. But sleep paralysis teaches us that the most creative, most convincing, and most terrifying monster maker in the universe is not in the shadows of the room. It resides in the 3 pounds of neural tissue between our ears. It is the ghost in our own machine, a storyteller so powerful it can convince us that its fictions are truth, that its phantoms are flesh. And so, it leaves us with a final, unsettling question that lingers long after the paralysis fades. If our mind is capable of constructing such a vivid and terrifying reality from a simple neurological glitch, what other, more subtle fictions is it building for us every single day, right now, as we navigate a world we believe we understand?